what worked for you in a certain moment to transform a certain thing doesn't have to work for you in a next moment to transform another thing. What can happen is that you bought into what that method does and stopped asking, is this still helping me with what I would like to get out of my system or transform into next? And then it becomes regulation. You, at some point, started to think, okay, I want to change something about what isn't working in my life, or I want to feel more about what is possible. And so you started doing certain things. Maybe you started reading books about this. Maybe you started doing certain practices like yoga or whatever. And in many of these cases, they helped you. So through these practices or through this studying, your world expanded. You became more aware of more things, different things became possible, and some of the things that may have been hard before started to become easier. So they worked. Now, often the journey that we are on is a bit longer than the time that was going on. But what quietly happened is that we experienced that that method worked for us. That method helped us to transform something, and so the method works. And now we're in a place where we believe that that method is the method that will help us. So we keep doing the method. But what worked for you in a certain moment to transform a certain thing doesn't have to work for you in a next moment to transform another thing. And so what can happen is that you bought into what that method does and stopped asking, is this still helping me with what I would like to get out of my system or transform into next? And then it becomes regulation. It becomes, I have a pattern, I have a routine that gives me grounding, that gives me stability, that makes me feel good about myself, through which I believe that I will evolve. And none of that is wrong. It's perfectly fine. But you're asking me if that method is still actually doing something to evolve me, or is it basically a regulator to have some stability and a pattern that I seek grounding in. And often one method doesn't really give the same, let's say, fresh impulse that it did when you started it. Like the functionality of what that thing does on you, how it worked on you, started to weaken, started to soften. And sometimes you can get caught in the idea that you can evolve through life just through these practices. But it's more accurate to say that life needs to be lived, to be experienced. And so rather than stepping out into things that are really uncomfortable for you to do in the real life, you start seeing if there is another yoga pose that you couldn't do before. And that's okay, but that's not really where the evolution of you is taking place anymore. That became a substitute for your rational mind to believe that you're doing something that evolves you, rather than actually stepping into the thing in real life, where the thing that makes you feel uncomfortable, the thing that makes you scared, would expose something to you that a practice in the privacy of your home or in a class of yoga or in a breathwork session or whatever it is for you will not do. And it's double tricky because often these practices help us to bring us in a certain state. And so the reward remains. The reward of, I feel nice after I do it, remains. And that's perfectly fine, and it's absolutely a reason to keep doing it as well. Totally cool. But that's not the same as still accessing what is structurally underneath the limitation from which you function every day. And I can't choose or say on an individual basis, whether you're doing it to regulate yourself and to, temporarily lift your state, or whether it's still something that transforms you if you seek to. The only person that knows that is you. But these are the mechanisms at play, and the fact that you're very good at a certain method doesn't necessarily say much about where you are with some of the limitations that run your life. Perfect yoga pose, highly anxious state of being, or a very defensive attitude towards people can coexist. So that's only up to you to know. But lean into the discomfort of real life. That will show you something that is limiting you to grow beyond where you are. And do all the practice you want, whatever. It's your choice, your life, or don't lean into it. I'm saying that's where the signal is.
If you seek more clarity, make sure to follow us or go to manualtoevolve.com.